What is up, everybody? Here we are once again talking about the gaming industry, and let's of course bring up the gaming industry's Kanye West, the man that snatches the microphone and gets the spotlight, Jim Ryan. Jim Ryan is an individual that probably more than likely enjoys the taste of his own foot because he keeps to be inserting it into his mouth so often that he is probably going to turn it into a flavored candy to pass out to those who want to believe all the rhetoric that comes flying out of his mouth. And let's discuss his next controversial statement that he got called out for right now. So in Jim Ryan's video testimony at the FTC versus Microsoft trial, he stated in that testimony that he saw Game Pass as destructive and stating that all major publishers unanimously dislike the service because they see it as value destructive. Now, this turned a lot of heads, both in and out of the courtroom, and even Microsoft's attorney questioned Jim Ryan's statement, asking if he spoke for the entire industry, and he doubled down, stating that the unfavorable perspective that he has of Game Pass is a commonly held view across the entire gaming industry. Now, if this opinion was totally held by the entire gaming industry, we would see a lot of developers and publishers avoid the service, but that seems to be a very far truth, considering a lot of developers and publishers like to take advantage of what Game Pass can bring to the software that they try to put out to the masses. And that is where in steps Sports Interactive director Miles Jacobson of Football Manager, and also, just in case you didn't know, Sports Interactive is also owned by Sega. But let's just dig into how Ryan's latest criticism of Xbox Game Pass has now been directly disputed by Jacobson, with the Sports Interactive boss asserting that PlayStation doesn't speak for all third-party developers and publishers. Jacobson stated that different games work well in different situations, suggesting that generalized statements like Ryan's claim that all publishers dislike Xbox Game Pass have little basis in reality. From Sports Interactive's perspective and Jacobson's perspective, the decision to bring Football Manager to Xbox Game Pass yielded extremely positive results because it massively expanded the reach of the studio's flagship series. Also, ironically, Sports Interactive and Jacobson are not the only people with this praising opinion of Game Pass. Sega also happens to share the same praise for Game Pass. Now, they are the parent company of Sports Interactive, and they went on to record praising Xbox Game Pass, citing it as a major factor for driving the continued growth of its numerous franchises. Apart from Football Manager, the Japanese publisher has also so far brought many games from the Yakuza and Persona series to Xbox Game Pass, and they are not the only company to bring their games to the service for a little bit more extra success. We saw this with Square Enix with Outriders. Capcom is getting ready to launch Exo Primal into the service here in the next few days, and we also saw Squanch Games get amazing success with High on Life being launched in the Game Pass last December. So Game Pass has helped really get a lot of developers off their feet and a lot of publishers' software into people's hands to play it, experience it, and potentially buy the game, because guess what? People do buy the games in Game Pass. This is where the next evidence comes in that's going to really shoot down Jim Ryan's opinion on Game Pass, because there's a big publisher out there that has just dropped their game for the third damn time in Game Pass because it just keeps delivering the revenue that they're looking for this title. Now, what is this title we're talking about? Well, you will find this title right next to your birth certificate and social security card, because everybody and their grandmother and their great-grandmother has bought this game. It is sold gangbusters. We are talking about Grand Theft Auto 5. And for its third time, it is being put into the Game Pass service. And that is where Derek Strickland over on Tweaktown really hit the nail on the head with his statement that Xbox Game Pass can actually help elongate and boost earnings for older games. That's especially true for evergreen catalog games like Grand Theft Auto 5, where a series of rotating promos on subscription services has actually helped push franchise revenues. Grand Theft Auto 5 originally made its debut on Game Pass in January of 2020, and during the fiscal year of 2020 in quarter 4, Grand Theft Auto franchise revenues rose from $179 million to $210 million, and a similar thing happened the second time it was put in the service. Revenue during that period of time climbed from $253 million to $274 million. So you can completely see that every time Grand Theft Auto went into the service, revenue for the game went up because of more interaction with Grand Theft Auto online purchases, microtransactions, and all that good fun stuff. But the revenue didn't end there, because when it left Game Pass, sales went up for Grand Theft Auto 5. When Grand Theft Auto 5 left the service for the first time back in 2021, it managed to rise 5 slots in the sales charts, seeing a whopping 44% increase in sales for the week that it ended on August 14th. Grand Theft Auto 5 left Xbox Game Pass on August 8th, so it is difficult to attribute the boost in sales to anything other than the game no longer being available to those that were playing through the service. And this fast forwards back into 2023 now, with now that GTA franchise revenues are dropping comparatively year over year, they have now dipped down to 196 million. Take-Two has once again re-released Grand Theft Auto 5 on Game Pass as a strategy to hopefully boost both game sales and in-game monetization through Grand Theft Auto Online. So if Game Pass was this most hated thing in the industry, Take-Two would not keep coming back. They have literally triple dipped to put this game back in Game Pass for a third time because they know that it creates revenue. Imagine that. So this is where I have to at least deliver my personal opinion in the fact that I believe Jim Ryan's comments at the FTC trial were all his own personal comments, and that nobody really truly sees Game Pass as destructive as Jim Ryan does, because he does not want to have to compete with Game Pass. We have all known since Game Pass's inception in the gaming industry that Jim Ryan and other PlayStation executives have refused to accept the fact that this is actually a good pro-consumer service. They would rather stick to artificially inflating the price of games to $70 and doing all this stuff to basically generate max profits for the company. I understand that's the act of a corporation at the end of the day, but let's just look at the fact that, I mean, if Microsoft was as greedy and money hungry as everybody claims them to be, they would have been the first one to raise the prices of games and consoles. But we all know who the first person to do that was. That was PlayStation, with raising the price of games to $70, inflating the price of consoles. The market leader told everybody else in the industry that it was okay to inflate the price of their products, and they did. The judge at the FTC trial completely said to the FTC that she doesn't even understand why PlayStation does not make their PlayStation Plus service more competitive and appealing to consumers. They have the ability to do it. She even asked why God of War Ragnarok was not in the service. So therefore, this is why Game Pass is not liked by Jim Ryan, because he doesn't want to have to compete the way the industry is changing. He would rather try to control the narrative and dictate how the industry is supposed to compete based on his terms and his wants and desires for what he wants to get. He wants his cake and eat it too, but it doesn't work that way. He has to be able to pivot and also be able to evolve when things change that are out of his control. I knew when Game Pass came out that this was going to be an industry changer, and at the end of the day, Game Pass is a pro-consumer service that not only gets the spotlight on developers, but it saves me money. Who cares that it actually had a $2 price increase? Let's really think about this. Xbox Live before Game Pass Ultimate was $8 a month and $60 a year if you could find the cards. With Game Pass Ultimate, you get that $60 a year every damn time, and for that extra $10 a month for $120, you get access to a large library of games that rotate in and out, and you have way too much to play. I hear a lot of praise from people that cannot go out and spend $70 for a game all the damn time. We have also heard that now Square Enix is completely shot themselves in the foot because sales for Final Fantasy 16 have stagnated because anybody who is willing to pay $70 for a brand new game bought it. And it wasn't that many people. Because why? We're in the middle of a world crisis when it comes to people not having a lot of money. Inflation's out of control. Products are costing way too much freaking, I mean, like literally eggs were almost like gold at one point in time. It's gotten out of control and people are making sacrifices, and not buying a $70 game is one of those sacrifices. And Game Pass is keeping those consumers happy because they feel like they have access to games, and they also feel like they can keep up with new titles, especially with the fact that everybody is always talking about the games that are coming in and out of Game Pass. So the only person that's really butthurt over Game Pass is Jim Ryan. So here we are, guys. We're at that part of the video where I at least ask for a little bit of a subscribe and a like down below, all that fun stuff that YouTube likes to see. I always save it for the end of the video because I am not out here panhandling or begging for subs. As always, if you also like today's comment or even disliked it, please feel free to leave a comment down below. Interact with me. I always love to see your guys' interactions with my content. As always, check the end card out here at the end of the video. Explore my channel, look at my latest video, and always remember, in these console wars, don't let anybody tell you otherwise. Just play the games you love on the platform you prefer. I am Centurion 1307, and thank you for watching.